And we are live. Welcome to episode 21 of season 2 of hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel. This is January 31st at 7 p.m. Once again, I am Andy Saunders, and I will be moderating tonight's discussion. Time for us to get right to it. I have a lot to get through. Also, we have the online test special coming up in a couple of hours with a completely new panel, but let's get straight into introducing our current one. Let's see, I am going to go in some sort of order here. Returning to our panel after a few weeks, J Archivist, J-Board Moderator, David Kendall from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Thanks for joining us again, Dave.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, so how did you feel about Saskatchewan being mentioned on Jeopardy on Friday?
Well, they've always got to have their Canadian content in there, so I'm at least glad to see the Canadian content.
Also returning to the panel, we've got the man behind the final wager, Keith Williams. Thanks for joining us again, Keith. It's always great having you here on Jeopardy Live Panel.
Thank you for having me.
How's your liver?
Oof. Fred's not here yet, right? So I can say it? No, I'm kidding.
Fred's making his way back. He's hoping to join us a little bit later on tonight's show. Next up, we have once again Tom Kelso. Thanks for joining us again, Tom.
Always glad to be here, Andy. Thanks for having me.
So far from this week's episodes, we've got two champions. First up from Thursday, Mara Apostol. Thanks for joining us. Congratulations on your victory on Thursday.
Thanks so much.
And then also we've got, last but not least, Chris Becker, who defeated Mara on Friday's episode. So thanks for joining us here on Jeopardy Live Panel, everyone. Now, if you remember, a few weeks ago I announced the TJF Andy Awards. So basically fan voting for the favorite things of 2015. So I am going to get right to announcing some winners. The first category, favorite celebrity. The 5 nominees in that category, this was the favorite celebrity Jeopardy contestant from 2015. Your 5 nominees in alphabetical order. Penn Jillette, Deborah Messing, Kevin O'Leary, Aaron Rodgers, and Bellamy Young. So,
Wait, Andy, were you making honking noises after each name, or was that just...
I was not
random?
That was completely random. I thought you were doing it, Keith.
No. It sounded like the Price is Right game. Gentlemen, ladies, do I have 3 numbers right?
I was waiting for the honks before going forward, and it's like, where are these honks coming from? But hey, whatever, I'll roll with it. But yes, the Andy Award for 2015's favorite celebrity, and the winner is Aaron Rodgers.
Oh.
So Aaron got from the Green Bay Packers, got a significant percentage of the vote.
Wait a minute, Andy, did you spell favorite wrong there?
No, I deliberately chose the American spelling.
Sell out.
That took me a really long time after I moved to the States.
Yeah. I realize that the majority of my audience is American, and therefore I endeavor, without the U, to use American spellings whenever possible.
Yes, but do you say Don Juan when you're talking about Lord Byron, or Don?
Of course I do. And Don Juan when talking about everything else. So let's get into our first discussion point this week in Jeopardy history. We're going to go back to 2005 for this one, where Michael Braun, he won the teen tournament around this time back in 2005 and managed to pick up the final spot in the Ultimate Tournament of Champions. And, of course, he is the most recent teen champion to actually get back and play, be invited back to participate in a show's tournament after his teen tournament appearance, which brings forth the question: should teen players be invited to the Tournament of Champions in general? I think this is a good time to have a discussion about that, I guess. But should teen players be invited to the Tournament of Champions? If you have an opinion on this, feel free to use the hashtag Jeopardy Live panel on Twitter and send in your thoughts. Once again, should teens get into the Tournament of Champions? I know, Keith, you have an opinion on this. Do you want to start discussion here?
Yeah, sure. I think they should. I don't think that any tournament should be a dead end, or any individual game should be a dead end. So Kids Week, for example, you play one game, even if you win, you can never play again unless they have some sort of reunion, which I think, did they have a reunion Kids Week?
I believe they have.
I think they did.
Yeah, I remember when. I think it was like 10th anniversary or 15th anniversary of the show.
Yeah, something like that. I don't think there should be dead ends like that. I think you should always be able to funnel into a TOC or at least into a regular appearance on the show. And personally, I think all kids contestants should be eligible for the main show, or even maybe not the teen tournament, or the college championship later. I know a while ago, after the Jeff Shea tiebreaker question with Alan Kulik, I went back and looked at all the performances by teen players and college players in their tournament champions, and the teens actually did better than the college kids. So I don't necessarily think it's a good idea to have them back immediately because their knowledge base might not be as good, but someone proposed an idea that you take the last 3 teen tournament champions and have a one-game play-in for the last slot in the next TOC, which I think would be pretty cool.
What do you guys think about this? I actually, to be honest with you, I kind of like Keith's idea a lot as well. Plus, I think, it will, a good chance for the show to do some kind of, one spot left. What will happen sort of deal.
Yeah. Well, I got to admit it wasn't my idea. It was someone else. I'll pull that up, see who it was, so they get an appropriate shout out.
That sounds like exactly the kind of idea that would be worthwhile to try. The idea that a team player or a college player has somehow used up his eligibility for the rest of his life, or back when they had a seniors tournament, that I know that the senior players sometimes seem to have trouble with the buzzer competing against in-season contestants, but with knowledge base and the ability to practice various things, and then I don't think that there would be any significant disadvantage for any of those tournaments to be eligible for a TOC. And to be frank, I'd like to see them try. I think it'd be a wonderful thing to see if some of the people that I've seen working with quiz bowls in various places, for example, I'd love to see what they do in a more competitive situation. At least give them a slot, or a chance to compete for a slot, as Keith suggested.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've got one comment on the hashtag so far from @RockinJack18. He says, yes, but only one contestant. Hashtag teens to main show. So I'm not sure what he means by that, but if you want to clarify.
About the 3 people battling for the one slot.
Okay.
So it was Joe Taglick who actually had that idea.
Okay, well, I would say, Joe, that is an excellent idea. Yeah, have the last 3 play off for one slot. Yeah. Also, we've got. Do we have anyone else with a strong opinion either way on whether teens? Because the other thing is, it takes away from a spot from a regular contestant, and Michael Bilo was kind of popular, and he was the last. He was the last man into the last TOC, right?
Yeah. But you could also give them a play-in game. You take what? If assuming there's no other tournament champion, you take 15, 16, and 17. You put them together. You say, hey, winner moves on. Logistically, that might be a little difficult because you might have to fly someone out there who is no longer eligible because someone beats them on the last day, for example. Or I guess you could invite everyone to the TOC and then have 6 games filmed, which I think they've done once or twice. But why not be crazy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess, film a couple play-in games just before the tournament. So. And I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just thinking. I've happened to got lucky enough to know a couple of people who've served as alternates for the TOC. A fellow named Bud Humphrey was a good friend of mine back when I lived in Chicago, and Faith Love was alternate the year before I played. I got to know her because she lived in Maryland too. And it's interesting because the stories that they tell of being the person backstage. It looks like we've got Fred and Liz.
Hey!
Yeah, Fred and Liz have joined. We've got Fred Vaughn and Liz Fritz joining us here on Jeopardy Live panel. By the way, thank you both for being able to join us, and also congratulations to Fred on his victories.
Thank you.
Okay, Liz, do you have a headset perchance? Because I'm hearing an echo.
Okay, let me.
You're hearing it. It might be on my end.
It's probably me.
You turn yours down. Yep, because there's somebody else listening on this end.
There we go.
Apologies for the slight technical issues, but I think we're all good now. Yes. So, Tom, you were saying about alternate stories.
Well, I was about to say, being the alternate was a wonderful experience for them, but I don't think that for one moment that they would say, well, I'd rather be the alternate than not have a chance to play in. I know for certain that Bud would love a chance to be able to get back into it again. So if you took, as somebody was suggesting, Keith, I think a moment ago, if you take the last qualifier and the 2 people right behind them, and make it a play-in game, a la the NCAA tournament games in Dayton, that could be a wonderful draw. And then every 3 years or so, when you have enough tournament people to do that, then you could play that game instead and have it as a kind of a rotating basis. I'm really getting interested in this idea, and I have no production value input with the show. But the more I'm thinking about it, the more I think this is a wonderful idea, especially to start off a sweeps month with.
Yes. So, do either of you have an opinion that have just joined? We're discussing, should teen contestant or teen champions get a Tournament of Champions invite? Okay. Moving on. I am going to give out the Andy Award at this point. By the way, I don't have a photoshopped picture yet. One is still due to me. I have requested a Photoshop of my head on an Oscars trophy for the Andy Awards.
Jennifer Photoshop Queen.
I should say, sorry. I requested a paint.net from Jennifer Morrow. But, I'm sure she's working on it, and I'm sure after the shout-out that I just gave her, she will work on it even harder. But we have currently the Andy Award for Favorite Jeopardy Live Panelist. Your 5 nominees on this one: Steve Bonneman, Aria Gerson, Ben Ingram, Jennifer Morrow, and yours truly, Andy Saunders. And the winner of the favorite Jeopardy live panelist is, congratulations, Jennifer Morrow. Even more incentive to get the trophy, I guess, because now she'll get one. But congratulations to Jennifer for winning favorite Jeopardy live panelist. And guess what? See, I run a fair I run a fair vote because I did not win the category that I was part of. So congratulations to Jennifer. So actually, you know what? You came in just perfectly at the right time, Fred, because we're into talking about your run Monday through Thursday, wins 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
I don't know. I really don't know where to start.
Well, you know, I guess there were a lot of people online this week, from what I've seen and have been told. There was a lot of discussion regarding your pace of play. It seemed very methodical.
For the that's not how I saw it, because I've gotten raked over the coals for taking my sweet time, and
so yeah, so you disagree that you thought you did not take your sweet time?
No, I know I did. I know I kind of wasted
okay.
some time. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not even gonna argue.
Okay. Was that something that just happened, or was that a concerted thing going in?
It was really just what happened. I mean, it was just my brain. It was the speed my brain was going at.
Mm-hmm. You know what? To be honest with you, that is A-okay. You play the game the way you want to play the game, and
I felt like it was the game I could play.
Well, you know what? Hey, you won 4 times. The game you could play worked really well.
I mean, I don't think this is anywhere close to the first time that we've heard of a contestant getting flack for playing the game they need to play in order to do their best.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there's a tension between wanting good television, but when you're up there, that's not what you're thinking about. You're not thinking about how can I help these guys make the best show they can. You're thinking about how much, I need to take my time to decide what I want to go to next, or I don't care what Alex wants to say right now, I need to call the category I want to go to. And so, to my shock, I discovered I cut Alex off one time. And that's just because our priority is not good television. Our priority is to maximize our chances of doing well. And if people didn't enjoy that, I don't care. And I don't think Fred should care. I mean, if that's what you need to do well, I think that's fine. And obviously, it worked very well for Fred.
Well, and the other thing.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, the other thing is what I noticed for myself was time passes differently when you're behind the podium. You notice a lot of different things and a lot of stuff that happens in the studio. It's a big studio, but it gets really small when things are happening. It's just you, the podium, your buzzer, Alex Trebek, and the big board, and not a whole lot outside of that.
Obviously, I personally can't speak to that, but to be honest, I think that sounds like a very apt description, at least from what I've heard from people who've been on Jeopardy Live panel. I certainly can't disagree with it, that's for sure. So, now, Fred, I mean, I guess the same thing went with your choice of strategy in Final Jeopardy?
You're assuming I had one. Seriously, and including a few people who were on this panel tonight, you raked me over the coals, and I'm going to say it right now. You're right. I messed up on so many levels, and I left a lot of money.
Hey, guys, you're cutting out. I think I need to go. Sorry. Bye.
Oh, darn.
Darn!
No.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Keith was being serious or joking there.
No, I was
Yeah.
joking there.
Okay.
It's Vermont humor.
Okay. So, I mean, let's see. I guess one question for all of you guys who have been on the show. So, if a future contestant came to you and said, "I just got the call and I want one piece of advice," what would that piece of advice be?
I'm listening.
Yeah.
Work on your mathematics, figure out betting scenarios, go to Keith's site, and learn all the potential things that could happen, all the various way numbers can break down. I mean, typical thing. In my last game, I bid on a $2,000 clue because I was kind of in the zone of I'm going to get this, I've got to get this, and I got it wrong, and that left me vulnerable to being caught by the person in second place. I lost a block because I answered a question I really didn't need to answer. And after that happened, I was vulnerable to being caught, and that happened. So you have to learn a little bit about how to do the math while you're there and on your feet, so you can avoid those sorts of situations, or figure out the optimum wager for final. And well, it's like I said to you online the other day, Fred. You had a great round. You're going to be in the TOC. Get better, and because you've got a chance to do something that everybody on this little row of blocks here wants to do.
Right.
Get back on the show and win even more money.
Right. And I guess I'd add to that, even if you think you've made a good wager, I mean, you still have a chance to kind of check it one last time, kind of evaluate it one last time. I lost because I didn't do that. Finally. Because if I'd kind of said, okay, I could have gone this one last little bit, and, I didn't. And it was kind of a replay of all those other shows where I was kind of in a position where I could have just done a very half-assed wager and still advanced. And I treated the last one like the other ones, and it didn't go well.
Well, I think in a couple of venues, I believe the term I said was, "You live by the sword, you die by the sword."
Mm-hmm.
But now, there's a few of you that I haven't heard from on this one. One piece of advice. What would that piece of advice
I can
be?
make it two pieces. One is, the first is that wagering is part of the game. And so you need to get ready on that. But the second is, I think it's incredibly important. Everyone studies once they get the call, but it's important to also get a real sense of what you know. I think knowing what your knowledge base is so important. It prevents you from ringing in and making guesses that you have no business making. Right. And it also allows you I don't know if the courage or what's the right word, to ring in before you have the answer, like in your mind, knowing it'll come by the time Alex calls on you. I think having just knowing yourself really well, and having a sense of which categories are good for, like, all of that is so important. And everyone thinks they just have to be good at everything. But the reality is that Jeopardy is very different from the Jeopardy test. You don't have to answer every question. For all your friends know back home, you were trying to ring in and got beaten out on all the questions.
Exactly.
You know, like, so just being, I think I was a little too conservative, but being mindful about you don't have to ring in on everything, I think is important.
Well, I'm just going to add a little bit here. And one piece of advice that I would have is, and it's something that's been repeated all over J board and even before that on the Sony board, was stay clam. There was discussion over Friday night's game of some of the triple stumpers, where how could they not get this? And how could they? Willem is such a dead. It's Netherlands. Yeah, and I can see Mara's holding up her Troy McClure. So, how could they miss that? That's sacrilegious. And when you're behind the podium, and again, I looked at the statistics for our Friday night's game, and there were only 2 incorrect answers. One of them was mine, where I was sure I was correct, and I turned out not to be, and the other was Sandy on a daily double, where she didn't have a choice to not answer the question.
Yeah, those nigs will definitely get you. I've noticed just by recording my Koyats, it makes such a difference.
And I will say that that certainly explains why the scores were so high in your game on Friday going into Final Jeopardy, because there were not that many negs at all. Now, Tuesday's final, I believe it was about Houston. How do we feel about that? Tricky or hard?
I think Chris and I both got it in the audience. I think, is that right?
Yeah, I got it, and I got that partly because I'm a space buff, and I tuned right in. Plus, I spent a lot of years in a technical career where the term main B bus undervolt immediately said, oh, it's an electrical problem. What famous electrical problem happened in 1970?
Okay, whereas I thought, who would be talking to a specific city? And that's how I got there.
Okay.
I like a clue that has more than one way of getting there, and it seems it was just such a clue. I did like this clue. First of all, I immediately focused on bus and was thinking the bus boycott, but then I thought, no, that's not it. The timeline's way
I was
too
wondering if anyone would think that.
Yeah, no, but I wasn't there too long, maybe just a couple of seconds, and then okay.
From my perspective, I saw 1970 and got stuck up in Ohio, but
Kent State.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as one of the people who got stumped on that. I mean, I don't know. I had L.A. Black Panthers, early '70s radicals, all on the brain. It was like all I had left by the time that the think music was done, because I was just there on camera drawing a complete blank.
Well, Keith also was on camera with an incorrect response to this one, so he went he had the year of 3 Mile Island off by a few years, if I'm not mistaken, from watching the final wager that night.
Yeah, that's the. I always knew I couldn't remember if it was the beginning of the 1970s, or the end of the 1970s, and I just, oh yeah, it's 1970, and then someone was like, no, it was 1979. So yeah, that was great. But I've seen a lot of bad wagers in my day. I've gotten kind of angry about a lot of bad wagers, but that was definitely the angriest I've ever been on camera. After realizing what the right answer was, and then just basically throwing everything I had at the camera. Luckily, I didn't hit. But yeah, I thought that was a really good clue, and in retrospect, it's pretty easy if you know what to look for. And I think that's a great example. Yeah, I think that's a great example of when I was talking with Randy Gold about teasing out clues. Thank you, Tom.
My
progenitor of that. Yeah, I mean that was a great. You had multiple ways to get it, like David said. It was a really good clue.
I just got to say that Tom blew the Tom on that one. I got with bus under a bus, and I never left getting out from under the bus, so I have no idea. I had no idea what it was until Alex mentioned it, and it's like, oh bloody, it's Houston. Of course it's Houston. I mean, Apollo 13 is like one of my favorite movies ever.
No. Yeah, the next day at work, one of my coworkers kept saying, kept kind of Just inserting Apollo 13 into every other sentence.
Oh.
Of course.
But to be honest with you, I think that speaks to just how good the Final Jeopardy clue was.
Mm-hmm.
That if you figure it out at home, you feel really good about it. But in the moment up on stage, it has the potential to trip. It just has that potential to trip you up. So, Fred, I'm going to ask you this first. Then I'm going to put this out to the rest of the panel.
Wait, hold on, Andy. Are we done with the one piece of advice? Because I have.
Yeah.
He's not. No, actually, get back to that.
Yeah.
Good.
Let's go for the piece of advice from Keith.
Learn how to. No, I'm just kidding. Don't learn how to wager. It's useless. The one piece of advice that I would give, and I have a lot of thoughts about preparing psychologically. When you are watching the game, stand up and hold whatever feels like a buzzer. I liked Alex Jacobs' idea of using a toilet paper dispenser, or you can try to build your own, like Bob Harris did. I know Fritz Holznagel has his own buzzer system. You can buy these things, I think. I'm sure you can. Someone will build it. But the Jeopardy pen, as I see David is holding up.
Mm-hmm.
There is it's not quite state-dependent memory, I don't think, but there is something comforting about being in that position and just imagining that you're at home in your living room. Because if you watch on your couch all the time or on your recliner, it's tiring standing up there even for one game. And if you go on a run like Fred did, it takes a lot out of you.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be ready for that.
And here I thought your advice was going to be learn how to wager.
No,
that is excellent.
Whenever I say that, Dan Feitel or Fred comes along and just blows me out of the water.
Yeah, but Dan and I live about not quite 60 miles apart from each other too. It's clearly a Wisconsin thing.
Clearly too much Wisconsin cheddar.
There's no such thing as too much Wisconsin cheddar.
Thank you.
So, my question for Fred and then the rest of the panel. What percentage number would you put your chances of qualifying for the Tournament of Champions?
See, and I've had way too many people in my ear about this because I always assume there's going to be a 5 or 6 game winner. I'm probably right now I'll be conservative and say 60.
I see Chris smiling over there. He's like, yeah,
really?
Well, I've got a 38 game run in the can, so you're okay for now.
Yeah.
Actually, I guess if Chris went on a 38 game run, that actually increases Fred's chances.
Yes, it would.
He takes up one spot, but takes up 38 games.
Yeah, I cannot speak to that at this time.
I didn't think so.
Okay. So, Keith, what would you put the number at?
I don't know. I have no idea.
In other words, 50.
No, I would put Fred more toward 75 actually, and not from a statistical perspective necessarily, but the powers that be can cut it off anytime they want, and Fred was a really good player and a lot of fun to watch, and he is one of the few players that I've seen who has very clearly loved being on the game show, which is just awesome. You think of Elliot Yates, and after he won his first game, his reaction. It was along that level. So I think if they had a choice, they would love to have you back. That's just my personal opinion. And I want to see you wager again.
No, I think no. There'll be some lessons between now and then if that assuming that happens.
So the rest of you who are not Chris and therefore feel comfortable chiming in on on predictions, what do you guys think?
Well, normally I would look at a 4-time winner in January, which is somewhat late in the season. I'm thinking, I don't know, 50-50 if that, but I was surprised. I mean, I was looking at the stats just now while you were talking, thinking, okay, well, how many 5- and 6-time winners do we have so far? None. Fred's at the top of the list, so this has been a very, very odd season that we haven't had any at least 5-time winners there. So I would say Fred's chances are pretty good at this point, provided the season keeps being so odd.
Now, a couple things on the hashtag. Matt Carberry says, in the 8th TOC cycles since Ken Jennings lost, 4-time champions are 83.3% in reaching the Tournament of Champions. So Fred has a pretty good chance. And Shea Zellweger thinks he bets the final wager has already crunched the numbers on this, and you're keeping your... So have you started trying to project the field yet?
No, that didn't work out so well last time. But yeah, I got it on my main site. Let me pull it up. All the numbers are there for past cutoffs. But yeah, surprisingly, 4-time champs are really good at winning a 5th game usually, which is one thing of crunching the numbers I didn't notice. No offense, Fred, but I think Elliot and Catherine were the only 2 4-timers in the last field.
Okay.
Wow.
So it's something like 60% of the time 4-timers win a 5th game, when normally a 1-timer will win 40% of the time, or.
I think it's closer.
Strange numbers.
Yeah. But well, as Keith is looking that up, I am going to pull out my next piece of paper. This one is the favorite non-winning contestant for the Andy Awards. Your nominees, we have this one, Scott Blish, Kea Chua, Mike Duval, Louis Vertel, and Shea Zellweger.
Dang.
Damn, that's a tough field right there.
That is a tough field, and I will say, actually, this was the closest vote between first and second out of any of the categories. Winning a tight vote for favorite non-winning contestant, congratulations to Louis Vertel.
Oh.
Congratulations. And that was I think the snap had a lot to do with it, also getting a nomination for favorite moment.
The snap around the world.
I promised we would not discuss politics on this Jeopardy Live panel tonight.
I will say, without commenting on the politics of it, that I really appreciated, I don't think anything from this week went viral. I don't think there's any chance of it going viral, really. But I really appreciated him sort of claiming some ownership of his own image and of his own story, and saying it's not okay to just appropriate me for whatever message you may have, and that's not. I mean, if either party had done that, I think it would not have been appropriate. So I thought, in a way, he was sort of advocating for all of us who put ourselves out there, and maybe used in a similar way. So I thought that was great.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can agree with that as well, for sure. So, let's move on to Thursday's Final Jeopardy specifically. Because I think, had we not had the 000 on this, the Monday past, that would, I have to say, Thursday's Final Jeopardy was one of the more dramatic conclusions to a game that we've had this season. And what I'd like to know, I'd like Mara to start this off. Can you kind of talk through what was going through your head and the emotions of that Final Jeopardy? I guess from the revealing to the clue, the revealing of the clue, writing your response down, and then the revealing of the responses and the wagers to when you were declared champion.
Sure. So, when you're watching at home, you're always, I don't know if everyone does this, but we always brainstorm what could possibly come up based on the category. But somehow when you're busy writing down a wager, you don't do that, which is unfortunate. And that's actually something else I would suggest is once you've locked in your wager while you're waiting, you should be brainstorming what the hell could come up, because I think you get to Gilbert and Sullivan pretty quickly on this particular category as like very likely to come up. I mean, other than in that Cape Fear episode, I've never actually seen any Gilbert and Sullivan show, Cape Fear episode of Simpsons. I've never actually seen any Gilbert and Sullivan shows. But, you know, racist, Japanese, you know, like a musical that involves racist jokes about Japanese people led me pretty quickly to the Mikado. Although I know racism wasn't actually explicitly mentioned in the clue. So I have no poker face. You could kind of tell that I seemed resigned about my choice of answer on the final Jeopardy, but that was because I sort of thought, well, if this isn't it, I have no idea. So it is what it is. Then, of course, Phyllis's answer came up as correct, and so mine did as well. And then I actually assumed it was going to be a triple get from the category, knowing that Fred has an incredibly broad knowledge base, knowing that Phyllis was a teacher who was fairly strong in literature, so she was likely to also know British musical theater. That just, you know, I was just running on assumptions at that point. But Fred, of course, got it right. And I don't know what it was like for people watching at home, but in the studio, we all, I don't know if Fred did, but we all kind of stopped. Like everyone was doing math in their heads very quickly to try to figure out what just happened. Certainly at my watch party, suddenly everybody went silent because they were like, wait, what did Mara have? Like, what happened? And then and I was looking at the scores, and then they came up, and I just lost my mind. Yeah, it was incredible, and it was another time that I just remembered, like, wagering is an important part of the game. It's one of the few times you have any control, and my wager is fairly obvious how I calculated it, but I was happy. That was the emotion that it resulted.
Yeah.
It worked out well. I was obviously shocked. And as I've, you know, Fred and I have already talked about to some degree, there's a degree of, you know, like, oh crap, did I just cost him an invitation to the Tournament of Champions? Oh well, I won a game. That's pretty awesome.
Exactly.
So I mean, that was it. I think it was. When you're in second in a position that I felt I was in a position where my only chance was Fred getting it wrong or wagering wrong. And I was pretty sure it was going to be a triple get, so my only chance was that Fred wouldn't wager appropriately, and lucky for me, but it was unfortunate for Fred.
Fred, can you kind of talk us through that moment as well?
Oh, I mean, to be honest, I thought about the wager like right away, and then kind of settled on some really high numbers that were about $500 apart, and Glenn was kind of just looking at me, you know, obviously wasn't saying anything. But just, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to do this? You know, this is before the clue even came out. And I'm like, well, I mean, you know, these are these two numbers. And yeah, I mean, I figured my chances were good, and I went with the higher number, which turned out to, well, you watched the thing. Yep. It wasn't enough. and everything just kind of went blank in my head until the camera stopped rolling, and I was smart. I saved the tears until the camera stopped. I'm like, what did I just do? And those weren't really tears of, oh my God, I messed up. It was like tears of, I got here to even do that. You know.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I will say, watching at home, it felt very dramatic. Keith, how did it feel? I mean, you obviously have the camera rolling when that happens. Was it kind of for you being like, well, you know, wagering is important finally caught up with him, or?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's almost verbatim what I said on the video. I really can't speak to Fred's perspective. I can tell you about how it felt after my Ultimate Tournament of Champions game, which I think taped this week 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Just, not paying attention to the category and figuring out the right answer, but putting the city instead of the island they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever been, punched really hard in a very sensitive area, it was about 10 times worse than that. After I realized I had messed up. Oh, I scared Fred away. Look.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it's just a feeling when you do something like that you can't describe.
Oh, I'm out too. I'll be right back.
Okay. I guess now would be a good time to give away another Andy Award. This one for favorite moment from the 2015. In chronological order here, number 1 we have Kristen Sauceville and her single-player Final Jeopardy. Louis Vertel and The Snap heard round the world. Jennifer Morrow dances. And I guess I was just going to interject here. Jennifer Morrow dancing was one of those things that came from her, standing up when she watched at home. And, the theme music played. And that's, kind of how she got into the game. And it worked out very, very well for her. Then the 4th nominee, Talia Lavin, what is the love ballad of Turd Ferguson, Hi Mom. And finally, from the Tournament of Champions, Alex Jacob and What is a Leave?
Jeez. Fun ones.
Fun
ones all.
Fun ones all, and winning the winning the Andy Award for favorite moment of 2015. Congratulations to What is a Leave? Well done, Alex. I think the answer that so many Jeopardy nerds want to give, watching this show, and Alex finally having the wherewithal to put it down in Final Jeopardy. Another funny story about that. Sally Hatfield. She was the 3rd player in the game. Matt Jackson lost to Michael Baker, and she was always Sally and I actually ended up sharing an Airbnb when I was in Kansas City for my audition. And a couple of hours before my audition, Sally and I had a reasonably good discussion about, the audition process and, our various Jeopardy journeys. And she mentioned that, What is a Leave was one of those things that, she and her partner says, or that's what they say, every time going into Final Jeopardy, the What is a Leave thing. And, it was, when Alex put that down, it was like, yep, that's the Jeopardy nerd thing to do. And very appreciated. I know at the viewing party I was at in Boston that night, we all were very happy. We all, broke out into uproarious laughter at seeing that, and was quite a moment. And I'm actually very glad that won.
But now, anybody who does it now would just be copying. Matt, the master, or Alex. Sorry.
Yeah.
Alex. That is something that Alex can take ownership of now, and he deserves that.
Moving on. Oh, by the way, Fred, did you leave the studio after taping Thursday's episode?
No, I stayed and watched Fridays.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was still kind of a basket case, but I did hang.
Moving on to Friday's episode, that was, I have to say, I quite enjoyed watching that game. Mara, you were pulling answers out of everywhere. I mean, first of all, the back-to-back questions in the brands category, the second one being the daily double. any idea where Jeep came from?
Yeah, so this one's one where what Chris said before is totally true. Time just works differently when you're on that stage. And I felt like 1,000 years went by during the time I had to answer that. So I knew it had to be a 4-letter, double letter, somewhere in there, vehicle. And I literally had enough time to think, okay, I can't think of anything with double letters at the end. Maybe they're in the middle. Maybe they're vowels, because vowels are always something I tend to forget about in wordplay or, that kind of, those kind of questions. And finally figured, oh, it's not double O's, maybe it's double E's. Wait, Jeep is a vehicle, maybe that'll be it. I mean, by the time I answered, it was so late that Alex had stopped listening to me. He'd just, given up. He's not going to get it. So that was nice. I was pleased that I got to get a True Daily Double in there at some point. That's, everyone wants to say those words, and it was actually strategically appropriate to say them when I did. So, that's just one of those things where you shouldn't start shaking your head saying, I have no idea, too early. You really have the time. It doesn't help anybody other than perhaps people at home who just want to get on with the game for you to just give up early. So you got to just keep thinking until they make you give an answer or run out of time. And you just, you got to keep brainstorming. I did not know that. That just came out of literally nowhere from just brainstorming as quickly as I could in my mind. And so I think that's a testament to just staying focused on the task and getting it done and not giving up just because you couldn't think of it right away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a different theory on that. My theory is that Mara heard my brain saying Jeep, Jeep, Jeep. Because I was standing next to her just thinking, I wish I had this one.
Oh, and by the way, sorry, I was going to say, no, Chris, all I could think of when I first saw the categories for Friday's show was, and I know you had to be just gnawing at the bit all through Thursdays with the Chicago History Museum questions. The first category, and I'm from Brooklyn, is which New York City borough? And I'm thinking, that was the look on my face in the audience. It was just like, how awful is my luck?
I mean, it's funny. I mean, we all have moments like that all day, when a question came up about Ganymede, I'm like, that was my question. That was supposed to be for me,
Right.
Or Timi Schwada came up on Monday, and they couldn't, you had to place it in which continent, and I'm Romanian, and I'm like, how are you guys not getting this right off the bat? And, I think it's just, that's the luck of the draw, There are questions that you feel were written specifically for you, and they don't come up in your name, or someone, Chris gets in on Saskatchewan before the Canadian who's up there. That was incredibly embarrassing. You can see me being frustrated. I literally I can't believe this is happening. I mean, that's just the way it goes.
Right.
By the way, props to the American for getting a Canadian geography question. That always impresses me.
I've always loved the prairie provinces.
Speaking as a Prairie Province resident, I'm pleased to hear you say that.
Spent quite a bit of time in Edmonton in a previous life.
Okay.
So, Mara, my next question regarding Friday, you kind of smiled a little bit wistfully at that PETA question. Is there a story behind that? Or?
No, I don't know. So I have no poker face. I just thought it was funny. It was a funny question. Someone tweeted Mara snarking about PETA. I'm like, no, it's just funny. I don't know. The fact that you throw tomatoes or red paint at people who wear fur is hilarious to me. I don't know why. I'm not a big fan of fur. I like animals and everything. I don't have a particular view about PETA necessarily. I think part of it is I play the way I play at home, which is I feel a certain way about certain subjects, or I think some things are funny. In the Thursday game, when Eddie Murphy came up, like that, literally that fact had come up at my pub trivia 3 separate times in the couple of months before taping, and I couldn't believe it when it came up, like, on my game. So I guess the reverse of what I was describing also happens, where it's like, I've specifically trained for this question, things are just. I don't have a particular view. I don't know why people were trying to read into that, but I guess that's what people get a kick out of watching at home, is trying to figure out what people really think about the subject.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now, watching along at home, the Daily Double in Where's the Book? To me, that was a situation that might have called for a bigger wager. Keith, what do you think about that?
What was the clue? Or what was the level on that one?
That was 1,600. But they were, if you realized, for the first 3 clues, or the first 3 clues in the category, they were spotting you the fact that the first word was where.
Oh, the Spendak question?
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, maybe if you know a lot of books. You know what? There was one clue that I was really, really hoping Fred would make a big wager on. It was that no C category. The one where they would give you some sort of famous pair, and one of them had a C in it. You had to give the other one.
All right,
I felt like
and Castor and Pollux, yeah.
I felt on all of them you get to that. The first 4 anyway. You get to those in multiple ways. I mean, Castor and Pollux, you have to just know, I guess. But I was hoping you go really big on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And being a Gemini, it was pretty easy.
And
the Daily Double Sandy actually got the question was fairly straightforward, but given it was a $1,600 position, right? I mean, what did she wager? I don't even remember.
2,000.
I mean, if she had gotten the question below that, I don't know how popular Where'd You Go Bernadette is. Like, if she'd gotten that question on that, her wager of 2,000 might have seemed very reasonable. I don't know. I think in retrospect, you feel like she should have wagered. You might feel like we should have wagered more because the answer was so straightforward. But it could have been a much harder question.
Yeah, personally, on a literature category, I'm thinking 1,600 and 2,000 are probably going to be things that I don't know.
Yeah.
And even if I'm spotted where, like, I'd never heard of that book, and I still can't remember what it's called, Mara.
Which one, the Sendak book?
Where'd you go? No, I knew that one, but Where'd You Go Bernadette? Is that what it's called?
Go Bernadette, which is one of my Slumdog Millionaire moments, because Ken Jennings recommended it on his blog 2.5 years ago, so I read it. He also appeared in the trailer for it, so that's the only reason I knew that question. It was a very nice moment.
And, I mean, Chris, you picked up the buzzer timing. The back half of Double Jeopardy. I did not count how many times you rang in first, but it was a lot.
I'm just looking in J Archive right now, and it looks like I hit about halfway through, about 15th question in, and that was the one in starts and ends with different vowels.
Yeah.
And that was a little video of the martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
And what's kind of interesting there is after I give the answer, you can see me look to my left on the video.
Mm-hmm.
What happened there was after I gave the response, Alex Trebek looked up at the judges, and I was like, "Did I get it wrong? Is he looking for a ruling?" And then he said, "Oh, you got it correct," and moved on. What was kind of interesting, what I found out later at my next taping, was Maggie mentioned that when that happens, it's not necessarily looking for a ruling, but that Alex Trebek has been known to make side wagers with members of the crew on whether particular questions will be triple stumpers or not.
Yeah,
Jerry, you only $50 on this one.
So
I can confirm that there was a clue in my Tournament of Champions that he had a side wager on, and Russ Schumacher got it right, and he looked over at the judges and gave him a little look. But it was
Oh, Alex Trebek.
Yeah, and like I said,
my guess is he lost that one.
I don't know. I haven't confirmed that one way or the other, but I answered Aikido, and I have no idea where I got that from. But he ruled it correct, and I said, okay, well, let's go from here. And I think I ripped off a few in a row after that.
Mm-hmm.
Until I hit the infamous Richie Sambora.
So the chair.
Another triple stumper.
And then if you look at my reaction after that, as soon as he negged me on that one, you can see me wince because for whatever reason in my brain, Richie Sambora and Slash are mixed up. I was sure that Guns N' Roses was the correct answer.
For me, that was such an easy one because I am such a huge Bon Jovi fan. Bon Jovi was pretty much the soundtrack of my teenage years, so that was so easy for me. And I was wondering, where's he getting Slash from?
Well, yeah, it's
where's he getting Guns N' Roses from? Sorry.
Yeah, it was they're mixed up in my head. It's, what you can see on the $2,000 clue, Steely Dan was right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And I think as I posted somewhere recently, that $1,600 neg essentially cost me a lot.
Sounds like we have some dogs who want to join in.
Oh, yeah.
Panel.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so as we
The dog is basically for getting a question wrong. That's a tough act.
that sounds like a big dog.
what?
What kind of dog is that?
It's a beagle. In case
Darn.
there's any question.
A very loud beagle.
Yeah.
Yeah, the doorbell rang, so she obviously had to answer.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to move on to the next category for the Andy Awards, favorite episode. Our 5 nominees here, I think you nominated the first one, January 27th. Christine Kim, Jennifer Hindert, and Brian Quinn. That was when Christine made the penultimate wager of a true daily double to get to exactly 2/3. The second nominee was March 27th. Jacqueline Hankins was the returning champion. She played against Michael Bilo and Eric Swanson. Number 3, April 8th. Carrie Green, Travis Misha, and Kea Chua. Number 4, the Tournament of Champions final, Game 2, November 20th, Matt Jackson, Alex Jacob, and Carrie Green. And finally, from December 23rd, Teresa Tejada, Joe Quackenbush, and Chandra Ghosh. So those are your 5 nominees. The favorite episode, the Tournament of Champions, Game 2, November 20th, Matt Jackson, Alex Jacob, and Carrie Green. That was a good one. I mean, Matt did the best he could to try to reel in Alex. Was eventually unsuccessful, but almost seems like the Alex Jacob cabal got out in large numbers to vote so far. So he's got 2 Andy Awards. He's up for favorite contestant. Will he win 3? But okay, so let's move on. I guess for everyone, my next question for all the contestants who were on this week, you guys were all in the studio on Thursday, so I guess I'm going to ask, what did you guys have for lunch?
I went to the salad bar and had romaine lettuce and olives and egg because, egg. because protein, and I think sesame, or no, sunflower seeds, that kind of thing on my salad, and a Diet Coke. But, I mean, one thing to keep in mind about the salad bar is you may end up needing floss. Karina had to run around trying to find me floss afterwards. And fortunately she did. And by the way, the contestant coordinators are amazing, and they realize that just knowing that you have something stuck in your teeth can distract you during gameplay. So they were very attentive about getting it floss.
Fred, what about you? What did you have for lunch?
Co-signing for the salad bar that day. Spinach salad and I want to say blue cheese and entirely too many craisins. I mean, really way too many craisins and some kind of commercial iced tea products.
And Chris.
Chris is on mute.
Yourself.
Chris is on mute. Unmute yourself, Chris. I don't have you. I don't think I have. Let's see. No, I cannot unmute you, Chris. There we go. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with the salad bar as well.
But now you have new face.
Apologies for the technical difficulties here on Jeopardy Live panel this evening.
Oh well.
So yeah. No, you were saying something in our pre-show, Chris, about only having or being advised to only take certain selections. What about that again?
Actually, it wasn't that I was advised to. Well, actually, we were advised to either hit the salad bar or take something that was already prepared, as opposed to standing and waiting for them to grill something. Yeah, because it's wasted time.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting point. Now, my next question for this week's contestants: did Alex?
Something funny that happened at lunch.
Yes, please.
So during lunch, I think Chris and I were sitting opposite each other, and we'd already figured out that we were both on J-Board, and we both watched Final Wagers, so that was disheartening news, I think, for both of us.
Why? Because you could commiserate and how you have to watch me every night, and it's really annoying.
No, it was like bad news that someone else knew what's up. So, but anyway, I think Chris started talking about why he had a problem with one of the questions that was in the first half of the day about forging. And so I started asking him about his background, like what jobs he'd had and stuff like that. And partway through, he realized I should not be revealing information about myself to someone I might be competing against. It's a very interesting little moment where I realized I was doing some intel work, trying to figure out who I was up against. I mean, at that point, we didn't know if we'd even face each other, but I don't know if other past contestants are sort of circumspect and want to keep their wheelhouses close to their chest and not reveal too much about themselves. One of the things that resulted in it is it did affect wagering, I think, on Friday. Knowing that we were both going to make rational wagers affected our thinking.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking. I would welcome knowing if somebody watched the final wager, because again, yes, that could be taken into account. Yes, my opponent is will be more willing to wager rationally, and therefore I can take that information into account accordingly.
Yeah. Whereas don't take it personally, Keith. I did not start watching the final wager until the night my first episode aired. So we're talking 9 whole days ago. But now me, I and mine are addicted.
I mean, and the thing is with that is you got to know that, with all due respect to Keith, watching a particular night's episode isn't. Keith assumes in his episodes, I think it's fair to say, that everyone's watched the basic tutorials and knows what the hell he's talking about. Because friends of mine watched the video and they're like, "This is riveting, but I have no idea what any of it means."
Right.
And so watching the actual tutorial on the basics is really important. Otherwise, It's just numbers on a board.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you're in TLC contention there, Fred, it's a good thing that you're now in the habit of watching the final weight, because then you might come across somebody in the TLC like Chris, for example. I have no idea how many games he's going to wind up winning. And, of course, he knows about good wagering, too, and you can bet if you're going to be TLC, chances are you know about good wagering.
Right. And but no, the thing is, I had been on the J Archive and kind of was living in that glossary for a little bit, so the terminology was familiar. So it wasn't completely alien to me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that brings up something. I used to be on J-Board a lot more than I am these days for a whole variety of reasons, none of which are worth going into at the moment. But would you consider your wagering Martian or Venusian, Fred? Since those are the favorite terms of the
Can I
J-Board.
bring up neither?
Dude, you got to get to like Jupiter before you even see what I was doing.
Somewhere out around Pluto.
I kind of wanted you to say Earthican, but
You said Pluto's not a wager anymore?
I know by the by the time I get on the show, all my wagers are probably going to be pulled out of Uranus.
no.
I would suggest.
That's the name of a planet, guys. Come on, get your minds out of the gutter.
I would suggest Mercurian.
Cheers.
Okay. So, on that note, let's talk about the interview segments. Did Alex Trebek talk about the things you wanted him to?
I guess I should talk first because Thursdays was a complete throwaway that I added at the last minute. The dancing thing, although
That's right. Speaking
mean,
of which, you've reminded me I have a request from at Quizzical Quack that she wants to see you dance on Jeopardy Live panel.
No, not tonight. I'm in too tight a space, and just to my immediate left are a couple 3 cactuses. So no, not tonight. Sorry.
Not tonight? Okay. I will give her the disappointing news eventually.
I can see it now, a Fred and Jennifer Morrow dance party, special edition.
It wouldn't be bad. I mean, no, it just would not be bad. So I was like, I mean, it's the thing. I remembered her shows, and I thought, believe me, I thought of bringing something crazy gimmicky on, at my podium too. But I just thought, no, with my roller derby background, just my fandom background, it would have likely been a cowbell, and that would have just wrecked everything.
That was Mrs. Murphy's cows? Cowbell?
Yes.
Right.
And that reminds me, Mara, I do have to ask, you haven't been getting any threats from Wisconsin roller derby teams, have you, by any chance?
No, actually, last Saturday. Well, last Saturday, the night after the show aired, I'd found out that a bunch of my favorite Derby girls had a practice and DVR'd Jeopardy because it airs in the afternoon here, and watched it after practice because they found out Little Birdie told them that a fan of theirs was going to be on. And when I got to their bout the next night, I mentioned this last week, I got treated well.
Now, Mara, are you happy about the cupcakes interview?
So, I mean, this is so they ask you for 5 great stories, and then they ask you 100 other questions about yourself, and they picked out the cupcake one. Here's the weird thing. I mean, that was years ago. So they asked some question where I said, yeah, years ago I did this cupcake competition, which I loved. Like, I really enjoyed doing it. I don't do it anymore. But stories about things you used to do are kind of terrible, right? Like, yeah, this one time I did this cool thing, but I don't do it anymore because I'm much less cool right now. But it was neat. Like, I think I have this perpetual problem in my life where I think I'm explaining myself and other people think I'm somehow criticizing them, which Alex and I ran into, where I thought I wasn't being clear enough about my chocolate cupcakes, and he thought I was saying that he didn't understand what Robert Frost's poem was about. But it was an adorable moment, and I was really hoping, it's one of the things you think about when between taping and airing is, are they going to cut that? Because I thought it would be a shame not to see Alex get defensive about poetry. I thought that would have been a terrible thing to cut. So I was really glad they left it, and I thought it was kind of charming, charming little moment.
Chris, are you happy with your first interview with Alex Trebek?
Reasonably. We had discussed, Karina and I had discussed, which story do you like, and there was one story that I had put down that I was actually unable to do because I kind of got emotional about it. And he said, well, we'll scratch that one off. And when Alex started the interview section and said, oh, Chris is into doing good works for people, I was, wait, I thought we scratched that one off. And then he says, we're going to talk about donating blood, and you can see the relief on my face. I wasn't going to have to talk about the other one right now. So, but, it's something, I like helping other people out. I have plenty of extra blood, and if I can help somebody out with it, so much the better.
How many times have you given blood, Chris?
I would say I'm probably around 6 or 7 gallons by now.
But I mean, yeah, I know.
Like
I think it was 5 or 6. Yeah, but how many times though? Do you know, or have you lost count?
Divide the gallons by 8.
Oh. Okay.
8 pints to a gallon.
Okay. You give 1 pint each time.
That's like about 4 pints per liter there, David.
Yeah. No, I've been giving blood the last few years too, and it does feel real good to give back and do that as well. I just recently did number 11.
Oh, okay.
3 or 4 years of doing it.
Mm-hmm. I still have a fear of needles to get over, but I'm slowly working my way up.
I will tell you though, Andy, it's a big honking needle. Just not sugarcoating it. It's a big honking needle. So.
Yes.
I decided I was going to put the camera on my own reaction there to big honking needle. Before I get to the panelist questions, I have one more category of Andy Awards to announce. This one is favorite contestant. Your 5 nominees here are Liz Fritz, Carrie Green, Alex Jacob, Matt Jackson, and Kristen Sauceville. Now,
that's a field.
That's a field, and the voting actually was, for the most part, quite even voting in this one. Not quite as close as favorite non-winning contestant, but the Andy Award for favorite contestant of 2015, congratulations to Alex Jacob. Winning the fan vote and picking up the most number of Andy Awards for the night. I know, Alex, you watched last week's Jeopardy Live panel. I'm not sure if you're going to watch this one, but you, congratulations. Also, a couple ones on the hashtag. Let's see here. Shay Zellweger, congratulations, Louis Vertel, on that sweet, sweet win. At Natty Delightful, poker champ, Jeopardy champ, now Andy Award winner, who was Alex Jacob, is one step away from his own personal EGOT.
She's actually a coworker of mine. She's fantastic. I'm hoping she's going to be on the show this coming season. Hopefully she'll get an audition.
That would be nice. I think there are quite a few people within the, I guess, the Twitterverse who would be very happy to see her get on. Let's see, anything else on the hashtag?
Yeah.
let's see here. Another one from Shay. I bet the final wager has already crunched the numbers on this, and then response: bet lost.
I didn't say I didn't crunch the numbers. I got them.
Okay, let's
I
hear
got
them.
them somewhere. Well, I'll put together a new post now. There's a new TOC.
Okay.
I'll update the old numbers because they're a little bit out of date, but I'll make it happen.
Now, do we have any questions between panelists? So, do you have any questions for anyone else on the panel, myself included?
Well, I'm wondering, I think it was Mara who kind of touched on it. Mara and Chris are, of course, J-boarders, and they knew each other through, well, didn't know each other, but you know what I mean. They both knew that they were on J-board. I know in the past that's kind of caused problems, and I'm just wondering, in this post-tie era, are they not really concerned about that at all? And did you mention on your applications, too, I guess, that you are J-board and list all the people that you know on J-board or whatever?
I don't think I explicitly said I was on J-board. I said I was. I had online conversations with some previous contestants. I think I specifically mentioned that I'd commented on Keith's videos and he'd responded before. I mentioned Sarah McNitt. We're actually Facebook friends. We've never met in real life. And she did give me some advice on the game. So that was a more. She actually told me after the airing that she was disappointed in my wagers because they were none of them were 4,000. And that Ken Jennings laughed at one of my jokes once. That was the majority of it. I mean, I don't think Chris and I have ever even had a back and forth on a particular thread. I certainly hadn't been on J-board for about 3 months until I got the call on Back to the Future Day, and that's when I sort of started going back to J-board, realizing, okay, let's figure out if, something I should be doing that I haven't already been doing. But I don't think I don't think that counts as knowing each other. I certainly didn't even think about raising that as an issue. After the taping, I realized that Sonam and I have a friend in common. I went to law school with someone she went to high school with. But again, we didn't know that at the time. I was actually terrified of facing her, so that would have been a good way to make sure I didn't face her if I figured it out at the time. Because I think she was a very strong player this week. But I mean, I don't think they really care about that slight sort of we have a friend in common, we hang out in the same online spaces, unless there's a real chance that you've colluded in any way. And speaking of that, I don't know that there's explicitly a rule about this, and maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but in a situation where someone is close to having a lock, it could be tempting for second and third to sort of look at each other and be like, you take all of the rest of them to prevent the lock, please. For them to somehow collude about ensuring that the person in first doesn't actually have the lock. But first of all, I don't think we were ever told that we can't do that. But secondly, I don't know how we could possibly do it and it not be obvious.
You can't. I don't think you can collude. I think that's in the contract.
I mean, what would that even? I don't think it was.
I think it was definitely something about splitting winnings.
I don't know if I read it I wonder if people have been tempted to sort of look at each other and be like, stop ringing in, just let me.
Well, somebody might take that as, stop getting so frustrated at the fact you're not. It's like, if you want to beat me in on the buzzer, then, ring in faster. So.
Well, I remember several years ago there was an incident where Sven Sinclair and Pastor Dave, what's his last name? Dave Simpson. Sven found out, Dave and I are both boardies. They mentioned this to the contestant coordinators, and they say, okay, Sven, just to hold it back until...
hold on a second. Things were a lot different when there were ties.
I know. I mean, that thing's a lot different. I was just wondering how different they are now, because there's no ties. It's different now.
I think if there's a difference that hasn't been explicitly conveyed to contestants as don't worry, we don't care about that anymore. Yeah. But I mean, Chris and I hadn't had any interactions previous to that day, so I didn't really think about it being something to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, when did ties get eliminated? Someone asked that in one of the threads on, I think, that Monday game, the 000 game, and I was like, yeah, there's been no confirmation, but I have it on from about 50 or 60 contestants who have told me this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like some guy was like, I don't think that's enough evidence for me. I was like, all right.
No, I mean, we definitely were told that's not an option.
Yeah.
But the mechanics, I think the mechanics of what happens with a tie hasn't been fully fleshed out for any contestants.
Called it.
I mean, who knows what Chris has seen?
Well, I think the regular J-boardies on here know that I really don't post in the daily threads.
Right.
Pretty much my involvement has been in the summer hiatus challenges and the occasional Think Different quiz. So on my contestant application, what I wrote down was that I'm a member of an online Jeopardy group, but no personal relationships, and that seemed to satisfy everybody. And as far as Mara and I, we were sitting in the audience, and I just turned around and said, hey, is anybody else on the J-board? And Mara said, oh yeah, I am. Oh, okay.
And then my follow-up was like, does that mean you watch Final Wager?
Yep.
Yeah, so the problem here is now I can never be an employee of Jeopardy. Because I would instantly make pretty much everybody not allowed.
Yeah.
You can't be the person who goes there and you say, are you sure you want to wager that?
Well, see, that was the thing I was trying to bring up back during the Tournament of Champions. Everyone was like, oh my god, Elliot needs to join the Clue Crew. And I'm like, no. Think of the eligibility for everyone. No, Elliot cannot be part of the Clue Crew. But,
or those people who say that Ken Jennings should be the next host.
Oh, no, definitely
For
no.
that reason. I don't think that he should be the next host because he was on the show.
Yeah. Give it to Anderson Cooper. That'll be fine.
I'm Team
Neil
Anderson
deGrasse
Cooper.
Tyson is the guy to go with, but I don't know if he would do it.
Who?
LeVar Burton.
Oh!
Or Neil deGrasse Tyson. I think it's one of those two.
Okay.
The way to go.
I'm a Trekkie. I like LeVar.
I almost kind of, well...
Actually,
part of me wants to start a pool to see who who replaces Alex, but
Yeah.
Let me know.
When
Because
Alex
I'm
is fired, I think that, you should do that and see who wins.
Okay.
I mean, the current rumor is it's going to be Idris Elba.
My second favorite Idris.
Second favorite.
He's got 2 SAG awards. I think he's got a good gig going.
I'm still going to go with Colbert. I'd rather hear bad Lord of the Rings impressions than bad Dracula impressions the next 30 years.
Oh my god.
That was genuinely misleading.
What did it give me a...
So, do we have any other random questions back and forth between panelists at this point?
Well, I guess running up to your next broadcast, I'm just wondering, has anybody else been planning referring anybody who took the exam this week? Because I know Mara, you'd brought it up on Facebook, like straight up, and
Yeah, so my favorite Idris did take the test and did fairly well, so I intend to refer him. Not Idris Elba, the other one, the one I live with. So, but there are a number of people. Like, I've been encouraging people to take it. I even stood up at my pub trivia night to encourage people to take the test. I think we need more South Florida representation on that show. So I'm definitely referring anybody who, got 35 or higher. I'm encouraging them to tell me some tidbits they want me to share. I think it's, I think a leg up is always helpful for people. Just putting a little star beside their application, and then from then on, it's it's up to them to make it to make the best of that recommendation.
Right.
Sure.
I guess they're thinking of, oh, this guy's been on Jeopardy. We know what Jeopardy is about, so if they recommend him, then that's a good sign that we should maybe take a look at him.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, I feel as though now is a good time to log off for a few minutes, in my case at least. The online test special is coming up at 9:15 Eastern.
Oh my.
So, in case you're wondering,
Actually,
we
can
have
I
a few
ask
people.
one question before we do that?
Go ahead.
How many people took one or more of the online tests for fun? I've taken 2 so far for fun from this year. Did anyone else take it for fun?
Nice.
Through the board, yeah, I took 3.
Yeah,
Okay.
using the videos, not actually in real time.
Out of the 10 questions.
45 and 48.
Okay, the question was.
So it sounds like
Okay.
did you take them for fun?
No, I didn't. I was too busy talking about it in radio interviews this week to actually take it.
That makes you. All right.
Okay. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming on tonight's panel as well. I thought this was a really good discussion. And thanks to everyone who is tuning in to tonight's Jeopardy Live panel. If there's anything else on the hashtag, I will probably end up... Oh, here's one. Alex is the Titanic of the Andy Awards. This, again, from @NattyDelightful. So, yeah, if you have anything else to say about tonight's panel, I will read it out at the beginning of the online test special. But... let's see, here we go. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for taking part tonight. I'm just going to load up the credits, and I will personally see you guys in about, I'm thinking, 45 minutes from now on the online test special. Thank you guys once again for.
Here's another book. I know.
For some reason, I'm having technical difficulties with the credits. Come on up. Please work. Oh, well.
It was on there for a little while.
I see the card.
I see the card, too. But for some reason, there we go. Now it's up.
Yeah.
Yay! We have credits. So thank you for tuning in to Jeopardy Live panel. I'll be back in about 45 minutes with the online test special. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for taking part. And see you very, very shortly.
Thanks, Andy.